Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first CUW Music Department Zoom meeting. This is very exciting for us. My name is Johanna Anderson, and I am the Associate Director of Instrumental Music and Music Department Recruiter at CUW. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we're so glad you're here. I have a few announcements to go over before we get into the meeting. I know that our faculty members are excited and eager to present to you tonight. We will be recording this meeting for the students and families who are unable to attend. So I wanted to just make you aware that we are recording. In addition, some of you I know are signed up for both the tonight and on Saturday. And I just wanted to let you know that we will be presenting the same material both nights. So you're definitely welcome to join us on Saturday afternoon, but we will be going over the same material. A few other announcements. I would invite you to connect with us online. We are at CUW Music Department on Facebook and at Music Department CUW on Instagram. And we've been posting a lot this summer, so please go ahead and check out the content that we have on there. In addition, we have just launched our CUW Music Department YouTube channel, and we currently have over 30 videos on there for you. We have videos that introduce our music faculty and staff, as well as the ensembles, and some resources for incoming music majors. We also have a video called Join Music at CUW, and if you haven't checked that out yet, I would invite you to do that. A final online resource that I want to let you know about is that we also have a shared folder on Google Drive where you can find our ensemble brochures, our ensemble rehearsal schedule, as well as music major curriculum documents. And you are also always willing, or you can always email us too with any questions that you have at any time. Now I would like to introduce our faculty members that are here tonight. We have Professor Mark Blado, Assistant Professor of Music and Director of Handbell Activities. Dr. Alexa Dudley, Associate Professor of Music and Director of Choral Activities. Dr. James Frazee, Professor of Music and Director of Parish Music. Professor Lynn Little, Assistant Professor of Music and Director of Music Theory and Musicianship. And Dr. Louis Menchaca, Professor of Music, Director of Instrumental Music, and Music Department Chair. And like I said, they are eager and excited to present to you this evening. A brief overview of our agenda. Part one will focus on the ensembles and opportunities for students of all majors. So we will also talk about private lessons, the fall ensemble auditions, and then also some procedural changes that we are going to be implementing due to COVID-19. At the end of part one, we will also have some time to answer any questions that you have. So please feel free to place any questions in the chat area. I know that you are all muted, so please use the chat area and we will answer the questions throughout the meeting. At the end of part one, we will also break and have the opportunity for the non-music majors to sign off so that we can have the music majors and minors and go over some curricular things. You are absolutely welcome to stay the whole time. We're not going to kick you off or anything, but I just wanted to let you know that we will be focusing on the music majors for the end of our meeting. All right, one final thing before we get started. Hopefully you're still with me. I wanted to just let band students know that we are proceeding as scheduled with our band camp. So that will be August 19th through the 21st. I will email you more information about that with the schedule and how that's going to work at the end of this month. But I did just want to let you know for planning purposes that band students do move in early. So that takes place Wednesday, August 19th from noon to 3. So just mark your calendars for that and please let us know if you have any questions. All right, I think that's all for announcements. We're going to get started with talking about our ensembles first. Our ensembles are open to students of all majors, and they rehearse on different days and at different times throughout the week, and some are more of a commitment than others. Dr. Debley is going to start us off with talking about our vocal ensembles.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really glad to see all your bright, shiny faces. We have 4 choirs at Concordia, and so I'll kind of talk you through the four options. Chapel choir and civic chorale are our 2 largest choirs. They're both for mixed voices, so that means both men and women sing in those 2 choirs. And both of them have around, it kind of depends on the semester, usually like ballpark 50, 60 or so people. Chapel choir, as the name would imply, mostly they sing for chapel. Chapel choir sings typically every Friday throughout the semester, both fall and spring, singing for chapel services, and then they also sing for some additional concerts. Civic chorale meets 1 night a week, and it is a sort of a different dynamic because it is both students and community members. So you have college students singing right next to someone who maybe has not been to college in a very long time, but it's a really great way to get to know these people in a different way. And both Civic Chorale also sing several concerts both on and off campus. Now, most of you have registered for classes, you probably have either chapel choir or civic chorale on your schedules for right now. That is a starting point because those are the choirs that most of our incoming students are in. But that doesn't mean those are the ones that you are necessarily going to be in. Like I said, it's just a starting point. Our 2 other choirs, Selah and Common Core, are more selective. They do tend to be more upperclassmen, but we do have freshmen in both of those choirs. Selah is a select women's choir. Usually we have around 25, 30 members, and they perform concerts on campus, and we usually try to get off campus to do some service singing, like at a nursing home or rehabilitation center. And then Common Core is our select mixed choir. Usually we have around 40 or so voices in that choir. And Common Core's big focus is that they tour every year during spring break typically. And then also some shorter performances off campus, like we will usually take a weekend to go somewhere and sing elsewhere. But we also give plenty of performances on campus as well. Mrs. Anderson, do we have any questions right now about choir?
Not at this time, so you can keep going.
Okay, great. In that case, I'm going to kick this off to Dr. Menchaca, who will tell you a little bit about instrumental ensembles.
Oh, Dr. Menchaca, could you unmute yourself? Sorry about that. Thanks.
I gotta say it all over again. No. Hi, everyone. I appreciate. I concur with Dr. Debley. It's great to see you guys. It's great to see, people, even though we're not live with each other, but it's great to see all new faces coming in. So we welcome you, and we can't wait to get to meet most of you as soon as possible. I'll talk a little bit about the instrumental program, and we have 4 bands. 2 contra bands, a pep band, a jazz ensemble, and then we have an orchestra as well. So as Mrs. Anderson said earlier, we have pep band and jazz ensemble, which have a little bit less of a commitment, and the contra bands, university and wind ensemble, have a little bit more of a commitment with wind ensemble is the one that tours and records every year. In fact, we just released our 7th CD this past year. So, having said that, we invite everybody to band camp except for orchestra. You guys will move in, everybody plays together for a while, and then we'll start divvying people up after auditions. And again, don't let that word terrorize you, because it's not. We try to make it as people friendly as possible. So again, looking forward to meeting most of you. And at this point, Mrs. Anderson, unless I forgot anything, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Professor Blado and handbells. Mark, you got to mute you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's good to see everybody. It's really neat to be able to put some faces with some names of people I've already been in touch with, and that is super exciting. And it's good to see all of you. So I'm going to talk about the Concordia handbell choirs. And it's pretty special at Concordia that we do have a handbell program. It's been a big part of the music department for a long time. A lot of university settings don't offer the type of handbell choirs that we have. And so I think it's pretty exciting. We have two groups, Chapel Ringers and Alleluia Ringers. And Chapel Ringers is a great starting point if you want to get back into bells or you've had some bell experience. It also is a group that's a little less commitment if you're concerned about your schedule just getting started and you want to make sure you don't get overloaded. It's a great opportunity that way as well. So Chapel Ringers practices during the lunch hour, 12 to 1 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And a big part of what we do is provide inspirational music and meditative music for chapel services on campus every month. And it's a great way to, provide a musical opportunity, but also service to the Concordia community by providing music in chapel, which is a really special part of what Chapel Ringers does. But we also attend events and things off campus, especially handbell workshops, and enjoy the opportunity to go on a mini retreat each semester. One of the unique things about Chapel Ringers is you can be in for the fall semester or the spring. You don't have to be in for the entire school season, fall and spring. You do, however, in Alleluia Ringers, that requires a commitment to the entire academic year. So Alleluia Ringers is also a great opportunity. Monday, Wednesday afternoons, we have our rehearsal time. We present concerts, and we also tour in the spring. And one of the unique things we do with our tour is we love to go to schools and present programs for school children and teach them about chimes and handbells and give concerts in those congregations and communities. So it's a really great opportunity to bond together and experience the joy of sharing music. So I'm hoping you'll consider joining one of the handbell choirs at Concordia. I would love to teach you about handbells if you don't know anything about them yet. But if you want to get back into it or you want to, advance your skills, we definitely have a place for you. So great to see you and welcome to Concordia Music.
Thank you, Professor Blado. Before we go on to our next section, I just want to address a couple of the questions that we've had come in. Thank you for that. We have several questions about auditions, and so instead of answering those right now, we're going to wait a little bit later in our presentation. We're going to cover the audition requirements and when that takes place. And so after that section, if there are still some things that you're wondering about, we'll be sure to go back and answer those. However, I did have a question about kind of asking whether you can do both band and choir, or if you have to choose. And you absolutely can do more than one ensemble in a different area. In fact, we have a ton of students that, that do multiple ensembles. So you can absolutely join, because we rehearse at different times throughout the week, so you can definitely fit that in. If you currently have choir on your schedule, but you also want to add band, you can either, if you can get on the online portal, you can go ahead and register yourself for one of the bands. I can get the course numbers for that. Or you can also have your academic advisor help you, and they can go on and quickly add that as well. So those are just some options. All right, we're gonna go back to Dr. Menchaca, who's gonna talk a little bit more about how private lessons work at Concordia.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. And for the people who are asking that, I do have to tell you that that's one of the unique things about Concordia, Wisconsin, is that not a lot of schools work on being able to have you be able to participate in multiple ensembles. We've specifically designed our rehearsal schedules that way so that if you can make the commitment that you can try to audition for multiple ensembles. All right, I'll keep on, I'll address more of that later, but we are going to talk about private lessons scheduling, registration, and instructors. Great thing about liberal arts environment like Concordia is that when you come up here and you can still remain active. Even though you're not a major, you can still participate in music to a full extent as much as it will allow. And one of the things that people do is that they want to keep on studying their individual instruments. We have some of the best players, performers in Milwaukee who are on our staff on every single orchestral and band instrument, as well as keyboard, and you'll talk to Dr. Frazee later about organ. So some people are required to take lessons, but anybody can take individual lessons on your instrument. And what I will tell you is that we've had several, a long running tradition that if not only people want to take their, keep on pursuing their instrument because they're very good at it, but it also has a benefit that regardless of your major, you do have 3 credits of fine arts, creative arts requirement in your core. And lessons and ensembles do satisfy those requirements. So having said that, at the appropriate time, we'll give you our list of all the applied music instructors, and we can help you get in touch with them. And again, you can take it for a credit. There's a lab fee for it, but nevertheless, it's still a much better deal than if you were to take lessons privately in the marketplace. Mrs. Anderson will help you register with those. Again, usually for non-majors, it's a 30-minute lesson or 1 credit. Majors are required, if you're a music major, you're required to take lessons, and that would be a 1-hour lesson or 2 credits. And again, you have to be signed up by someone in the music department, either Mrs. Anderson, our administrative assistant, or one of the professors. So we like to monitor who's taking the lessons. I would tell you we have a great vocal staff too. We have 3 vocal instructors as well. And a fantastic organ instructor. Is he still here? Yes, Dr. Frazee is still here. Mrs. Anderson, did I forget anything?
No, that sounds great. Thank
Okay.
you. Awesome. All right, we are going to move into talking a little bit about auditions now, and I know that some of you had questions about that. So again, we'll go through and present to you, and then if there are some things that we need to answer, we'll go ahead and do that as well. So again, we're going to start with Dr. Dudley, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the choir audition process.
Great, thank you. First off, I wanted to mention that you do have to complete an audition for all of the choirs. Even the more selective the selective ones and the not as selective ones, everybody completes the same audition, but it's not something that excludes people from singing. And so if you are a little bit nervous about singing for this person that you just met, who's scrutinizing every single thing that you're singing, don't sweat it, because really I think of them more as like a choral interview where it's just a chance for me to get to talk to you face to face, just to get to meet you a little bit and find out where you are both in terms of your music ability and your vocal ability. So that's why it's just a gateway for all of the ensembles, but it's to help place you in the choir that's the best fit for where you are right now. Usually we hold auditions at the beginning of every semester. Definitely at the beginning of the fall semester. Usually we start during the welcome weekend part, so those couple days right before classes start. And then also those first couple of days of the semester, none of the choirs meet so that I can have that time to listen to everybody individually. If you end up not being able to be in a choir in the fall semester, chapel choir and civic chorale, we still take new students in the spring, and then I can set up a time sometime around the beginning of the spring semester if you are interested in joining at that time. In terms of how you sign up for these auditions, I'll be sending out an email to all of the students coming in who have expressed an interest in singing in a choir. And we use a website called Sign Up Genius. Maybe some of you have heard of it before. So I'll send you the link and then you can sign up online. The whole choral interview process really takes about 10 minutes. And so I have a whole bunch of 10-minute slots, and you just find a time that works for you. If you are not on my list, if you are interested in singing in a choir and I don't email you in the beginning of August, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to make sure that you get that information. I'm just going off of the list that I've been given, but sometimes people slip through the cracks. So please know that you're always welcome to contact me. In terms of what you would have to do, the question that a lot of people ask is if you have to prepare something ahead of time. You can, but you don't have to. I always start by having you sing something for me, and the idea is for you to sing something that you're comfortable singing. So I have a bunch of familiar tunes that you can choose from. So things like My Country 'Tis of Thee, Amazing Grace, things like that that a lot of people know, and you can pick whichever one you want to sing. Or if you would prefer to prepare a solo ahead of time, you're welcome to do that as well. The next thing I do is I vocalize you so I can hear what you sound like throughout your whole range, and we go way high and way low and everything in between. Then we'll do a little tonal memory. So the way that works is I'll play some pitches on the piano, and then you just echo back what you heard. Some of them are pretty easy, some of them are a little bit harder. It's just kind of testing the waters to see where you are. And then we also do a little bit of sight reading. So I put a piece of music in front of you that you haven't seen before, give you a starting pitch, and you sing the best you can. A lot of people freak out when I mention sight reading. Trust me when I tell you that pretty much everybody freaks out when I talk about sight reading, so it's not just you. But even if you feel like you're a terrible sight reader, don't let that worry you, because it's a fact-finding mission. I want to know where you are. And sometimes you completely bomb it, and that's okay. That tells me valuable information. And other people nail it, that tells me valuable information. Sometimes you're somewhere in between, that tells me valuable information. So again, this whole process is not about saying you can't sing in choir. It's all about figuring out the right choir for you. And I should also mention just very briefly that let's say you don't get selected for the choir that you want to be in your first year. I give you an opportunity to do this choral interview again the following year. So you're not stuck with the same choir the whole time. You always have a chance to try again the next year and be selected for a different ensemble, and a lot of students do that. I think I've covered everything on my list. Mrs. Anderson, do we have any questions I need to address at this point?
The one question from earlier, which I think you covered, but maybe you could just reiterate. Someone asked about specifically auditioning for a select choir.
Right. The process is practically identical. The only difference is that for Sela and Common Core, I do throw in a little extra sight reading thing in there. But other than that, the process is exactly the same for those two choirs as they are for chapel choir and civic chorale.
Awesome, thank you. We have one more question. Someone asked, are the audition songs going to be a cappella or will they be with accompaniment?
Oh, good question. Typically, if you're choosing from the tunes that I provide for you, I will accompany with you. If you decide that you want to bring in a piece that you've prepared ahead of time, I will accompany you to the best of my ability, keeping in mind that I will be sight reading this time. But usually I prefer to have some kind of accompaniment just because I've found that a lot of students, if they try to sing an a cappella song, it tends not to go very well. So it's for your benefit to have that little bit of accompaniment.
Great, thank you. Dr. Menchaca, could you please talk a little bit about band and orchestra auditions?
Yeah, for the band students, when you're moving in early, we'll have a rehearsal with everyone on the first day, just to kind of get instruments working. And usually after we read something, some of the repertoire out, I'll consult with Mrs. Anderson, and we'll select something that we've all played that day, and select a section for each instrument. So again, you don't have to have anything prepared ahead of time. You can play anything that you want for us, but usually we're going to make the selections of and it won't be long, it'll be an excerpt, probably no more than 20 measures of something we've run over in rehearsal that day. We'll set a sign-up sheet. I think for that, we won't use a sign-up genius because we do it the very next morning, and on Friday morning for freshmen, because you're going to have to be to some of the orientations with student life. So we'll set up a time, and they're about 10-minute intervals. And basically, we want to hear some, what we're looking for is tone, articulation. So, but it'll be something you've read at rehearsal that day. For orchestra members, we will, well, let me finish up with band. I'm sorry. The one thing, we want to make our selections by the end of camp on Friday so that we can put you in the right groups. Okay. And so we'll have decisions on that. And it's, again, it's more of it's as well as it's an interview. We get to know you a little bit better as well. For orchestra, we meet the first day of school, and we'll take care of the auditions within that first week of school. Orchestra meets Mondays and Wednesdays, 3 o'clock, and we'll handle the auditions that week, first week of school. Again, it'll be something that of music that I've passed out. Okay. Ms. A?
Thanks, Dr. M. We have a question. Since we're kind of on the instrumental auditions right now, could you talk about what percussionists have to audition on and how that works during band camp?
Good question. And percussionists, was it Tess Miller who asked this?
Okay. Yes, it was.
Hi, Tess. Good to see you. Is that, again, in the interview, we'll decide. We usually do percussionists all in one block together. So we usually take percussionists and have you all sign up within the last 20 minutes of the audition slots, and we'll go and we'll ask you to take a section of what we've played that day and choose your instrument, whether it be mallet or rhythmic, and then we'll give you a shot at that. And then, so you're not by yourself, it's a whole section. And then we'll do it again and have you switch to another instrument. And we're just making comparisons. We just want to see where you feel better, okay? Again, it's very, very people friendly. Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Ms. A.
Yeah, thanks. All right, Professor Blado, over to you to talk a little bit more about handbell auditions.
Okay, so handbell auditions, I will be in touch with you through emails, as well as the CUW Handbells Facebook page. And another thing that works really well is there's a bunch of posters and signs right outside the chapel. So if you're going along and you see those signs, just a little reminder, they are held in the Alumni Heritage Room, which is next to the main chapel. and it's just right next door. And what'll happen when you come to auditions is that I'll have some handbells there, obviously, and I'll give you a pair of gloves, and I'll have you play some rhythmic exercises. And it's a-okay if you've never even rung a handbell before. That's not my concern. My concern is to meet you and to share with you the beauty and the joy of ringing handbells and give you a chance to pick up a few bells and play some rhythmic exercises. And then I do have a form that you fill out, and that has some helpful information on as well. So it is very friendly, and I also encourage you to bring a friend with you, and you can audition together at the same time. It's a fun way to get involved in music at Concordia, and it's very complementary to being in multiple ensembles, as you know, great opportunity to use your musical talents as many different ways in bells. So please consider it and know that I will welcome you joyfully, and we'll have a pleasant time together.
Thanks, Professor Blato. We have a couple additional questions about choir auditions, Dr. Debley. One is that if you audition this year and you make it into a choir, do you have to re-audition next year?
Great question also. If you are interested in singing in chapel choir and civic chorale, you audition the first time and then you don't need to audition again before you graduate if you stay in those ensembles. But there are a lot of students in chapel choir and civic chorale who are interested in singing in Selah or Common Core down the line. So if that is your situation, then yes, you would need to audition again to be considered for those more selective choirs. Once you are admitted to Selah or Common Core, what I do is I re-audition members every other year. So let's say hypothetically you get into Common Core, you would not need to audition again for another 2 years. So you would get to keep your spot in the choir for those 2 years and then re-audition. For Selah members, sometimes they get into Selah and then they want to try for Common Core in a year. Same kind of deal what I was talking about before. You would need to re-audition in that situation. But if you would like to stay in Selah, you're guaranteed a spot in Selah for that 2 years. And I go over this at the end of every year too. So if you don't remember now, down the line, I'll be definitely talking about this again with all of the choirs.
Great, thank you. And one final thing, someone asked if they are going to prepare a piece for on their own for the audition. Should it be a classical piece?
It doesn't have to be. Ultimately, what my goal is that I want you to sing something that you feel comfortable singing. Because I recognize that when you come in the door, usually people are a little bit nervous. Just something to kind of give me an idea of what you sound like. And if it's a song that you know and you know well, that's what I want to hear.
Good to know. Thank you. There are some of you that we haven't gotten to your questions yet, but I do want to let you know that we will get to those in a little bit. Right now, we are going to transition to a part of the meeting that most of you have probably been wondering the most about, and rightfully so, and that's the procedures that we are considering implementing, procedural changes for COVID-19. I do want to let you know that as a university, we are so excited to be back on campus this fall, and we're preparing for our uncommon return, and we know that there's a lot that goes into that planning, but our top priority as a university and as a department is the safety of our faculty, staff, and students. And so all the decisions that we have made and we are going to make, that's our #1 priority. We've all missed making music together so much, and I know that many of you have too. And so we want to do our best to get back to that so that we can make music together this fall. Overall, we are looking to implement a combination of the following: wearing masks when appropriate, social distancing, rehearsing with smaller groups of students, exploring ideas for outdoor rehearsals, and disinfecting high-touch areas and equipment. So overall, as a department, those are some overarching themes. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Menchaca, who is going to take it from here and explain that in a little bit more detail. And Dr. Menchaca, I'll get that document up on the screen in just a little bit.
Thank you. Like Mrs. Anderson said, we've been working really, really hard and to making sure that we are providing a hygienic and safe environment for you. So I'll just run through some of the things that we've been working about on the instrumental side. I'll let Dr. Debley and Professor Blado talk about the other aspects of that. But first of all, we're going to ask you to self-screen whether the university gets a consistent, we're working on trying to get a consistent temperature gauge automated at somewhere at the entry of the university, several parts of the university. But what we mean by self-screen is not only temperature checks, but if you're not in, if you don't feel well, we're going to ask you to stay home. That's what we mean by self-screening. We're going to utilize a traffic pattern, which one-way entrance and one-way exit to the rehearsal areas. Our life got a little better on the next one, which is utilizing outdoor rehearsal spaces. For the larger groups of the contrabands, we think we may be able to use the baseball field and some of the, because it's not a fall sport and we have opportunity to be able to use with appropriate social distancing, it'll be outdoors and use some of the stands as well as the field. Careful for foul balls. That's the only way we can say for fall practice, okay? Nevertheless, the directors will be wearing masks. String players, percussions will be asked to wear masks the entire time, as well as keyboard players. Winds and brass will wear masks if they're not playing or for a long time. But there'll be, if you have 50 measures of rest, we'd like you to wear a mask at that particular time. But again, it's a rhythm we'll get into. We're going to be in smaller groups with shorter rehearsal times to make sure, again, if we practice outside for the first 2 months of school, if we're able to make that, which is what our plan is, it's not finalized yet. If we're able to make that happen, shortening a rehearsal time or allowing for aerosols to dissipate is not as big a concern when we're outside and we're socially distant. But if we're inside for orchestra and if we do have to go inside for the band rehearsals and jazz ensemble, then we will take a break and making sure that we go outside, have some hand hygiene, and making sure that we give the room an opportunity to air out. And by the way, the university is increasing the airflow capacity and the air filtration to the best that it can. We're gonna ask at some point if you have your own portable music stand to possibly bring it, but we'll be disinfecting our music stands. No one will share music. If you use a school instrument, we're gonna ask you to buy your own mouthpiece. Percussionists should be able to wear gloves. And then brass players, we're going to ask you to bring your own portable, dorm size small wastebasket that's lined so you can deposit all your water condensation. And that's going to be, we're going to actually spend the first probably 6 weeks trying to make sure that we teach these new procedures, because we still want to make music, but we're going to make sure that we get the procedural changes, this new kind of etiquette about rehearsing so we keep everybody safe. What Mrs. Anderson has up there is a document me and her have been working on for the longest time. And don't worry, you don't have to, we're going to distribute this document at the appropriate time. And we're also going to give you a backlog of newsletters we've been sending out and at this point, we've put out 3, and we've tried to limit the number of contacts and make sure we only give you pertinent information. All right, Mrs. A, I'm done there. How did I do?
Yeah, no, that was great, Dr. M. Yeah, and like Dr. M said, we have been communicating with our returning students, but when we send out the Bandcamp information, we're going to share this document with you, as well as the previous editions of our newsletter, so that you can be in the loop on everything. Let's go to Dr. Dudley, who's just gonna say a few words about choir in the fall.
Okay, a lot of what you've just heard from Dr. Menchaca is going to carry over as well to the choir situation, but there's a lot we don't know right now. Dr. Menchaca sort of briefly mentioned the word aerosols, and the big challenge for singers is that when you sing, you produce a lot of aerosols, kind of more than you would if you were just normally speaking. So we're working on finding the best solution. Dr. Menchaca mentioned the possibility of rehearsing in the baseball field. That was something we just found out last week. And so we don't have a finalized plan in place, but we're looking at rehearsing outdoors. We're looking at rehearsing indoors, but in much smaller groups. So maybe we would have the choir divided into smaller ensembles and just doing group pieces with smaller groups of people. Or potentially like all of the sopranos come this day, all of the altos come this day, or the tenors come for the first half of rehearsal, the basses come the second half of rehearsal, things like that. But at the very least, we will be wearing masks because that's required across the university. We will make sure that everyone has their own choir folder and their own music, so there won't be any sharing. One way into the choir room, out of the choir room, or whichever our rehearsal space is, to minimize walking past other people. We're working on a variety of plans, and there's actually some research studies being done right now that are going to help inform some of these decisions. So I'm planning to send something out to everyone who is registered for a choir class or has expressed interest in being in a choir class. I'm planning to send out an email definitely before the first day of classes. I'm shooting for like mid-August or so. And it'll be kind of like a fancy document like the one that Mrs. Anderson just put up on the screen. And it'll lay out the specific procedures that'll be in place. But some things I won't know until after the auditions have been held and I know exactly how big the ensembles are. So know that I will be able to give a final idea once we get past the first week of classes.
Thanks, Dr. Dudley. Professor Blado, over to you.
Okay, so it's very important that we take all of this very seriously, and just know that I do. And we will definitely be following all protocols that are deemed necessary, and definitely wearing a mask will help us and is somewhat a benefit of being in handbells, because we don't need to use our mouth to play our instrument. And so this will help for bells, but there's still the importance of social distancing because we want to keep each other safe. And we are planning on rehearsing in the chapel because it's a much larger space. And each ringer will have their own table and their own folder, music, and gloves in a binder to take with them. So you'll bring in your music and all that you'll need for class, and you'll be able to take that with you. We will also take care of each other by making sure that we use some hand wipes and disinfect the handbell handles, just to be sure that that's okay. And we always try to take good care of instruments anyway. And I might add that Concordia has a shiny new set of bells just last year, just waiting to be played again. But we'll be wiping those down as we do to keep them in good condition anyway. But again, everything keeps evolving with the coronavirus, so we'll just keep on top of that. And just know that very important to care for each other during these times, and everything is being done that we can do according to the research and the information that is coming forth.
Thank you, Professor Blado. A couple follow-up questions since we're on this topic. Someone asked, are we going to be wearing a mask in choir?
In short, yes. It's possible that we might, if we do end up rehearsing outdoors, it's possible that we might not need to. But right now, I'm inclined to say, yes, we will be wearing masks in choir.
Okay. Also a question about gloves, like when we were talking for percussionists. The university does have stations around campus already, and I'm assuming they're going to be putting more stations that do have hand sanitizer and gloves and masks and other things related to that. If for some reason you don't have access to that, we will absolutely make sure that you do have gloves. So whether that's us providing them for you or however that has to work. So don't worry about purchasing your own gloves right now. If you would like to, you most certainly can, just maybe to have some as backup, but we will help provide those for you. Does anyone have any other questions that they want to put in the chat specifically related to COVID-19 and the procedures that we've kind of outlined? I know that overall, some of these things are still fairly vague. And that's because, like Dr. Dudley mentioned, there are still some studies that have been commissioned that hopefully we will be getting some results as related to music ensembles within the next few weeks here. And so some of that might inform our decision. But overall, we are positive that we can do some sort of music making in the fall, even if it's not exactly how it normally is. So overall, I guess the takeaway is that we are going to do everything we can to keep you safe, but we are also going to make music while doing that. So someone asked, thank you for the question, will concerts be conducted, and if so, how? Dr. Menchaca, would you like to briefly address that?
I need, Mrs. Anderson, I need clarity on the question. Is it conducted by us or we have concerts? I mean, what, can you ask?
Sorry. Yeah, well, I'm assuming they meant like, will concerts happen and how will that look?
One of the reasons we've been slow to give you the dates of our concerts, some of you may have it, is because we're waiting for some studies to come out, see what the implication was. So to answer your question, we do have scheduled concerts and we were planning on doing some variation of that, whether it's, again, that's going to be dictated not so much by us, by university policy and by our local health board. So yes, we plan to do something. It may not be in the traditional way. It's the best thing I can say. In the way that normally we'd have the parents' concert in 6 weeks, or for example, the second day we'd have the send-off. The send-off after the second day of band camp has been changed a little way. While I know Ms. Anderson and the pep band are going to participate, that's outdoors. That's a whole different scenario. But we don't have any information yet as to how the university is proceeding with the parents' weekend. So all in all, that was a fancy way to say, I don't know.
That's okay. We'll keep you guys updated for sure when the time comes.
Mrs. Anderson, maybe it's a good idea. Ask him if they would like to, if they would want to receive the concert schedule for fall as it has originally been planned.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk about that for sure. Also, Dr. M, someone wants to know when we are in class or like for the ensembles, is everyone going to be 6 feet apart?
Yes, we're going to try outside, easier to obtain outside. And that's why when we're inside, we're going to break the ensembles down into smaller groups and rotate it every 20 minutes after, say, a 10-minute break. That's what we're going to try to do. That's our plan.
Okay, great. There was a question about school-owned instruments earlier, and then now related to procedural changes. So I'll go ahead and address that right now. So first of all, we do have quite a few school-owned instruments. In fact, we probably sent in the most instruments that we ever have this summer. We filled up a huge van full to make sure that they were sent in and cleaned and sterilized, and mouthpieces as well. So if you are someone who would need a school-owned instrument, feel free to email me. I will also send out a survey along with the Bandcamp information. So just know that we most likely have a school-owned instrument for you. If not, we'll talk about that, but typically we're able to accommodate all of those requests for school-owned instruments. Related to our new procedures, there won't be any sharing of instruments. To be fair, we didn't really do that a whole lot to begin with, and if so, we would have students use their own mouthpiece. But in one of the editions, sorry, I couldn't think of the word, of the newsletter that we put out, the first one was specifically about no sharing of instruments, having your own mouthpiece, keeping your mouthpiece with you. So even if your instrument is too large to remove from the band room every day, making sure that your mouthpiece is with you. And so definitely feel free to email me if any of you are wondering specifics about school-owned instruments, but I think we'll be okay. So we're gonna implement some new things to be good with that. Before we move on to some other questions, does anyone have any more about, again, procedures for fall? And as they come in, we can go back to that. Let me scan through. There were a couple questions earlier. And again, if I don't answer it, feel free to send it again so that I see it. The first one was regarding private lessons. So Dr. Ann, I'm gonna pose this question to you. Someone asked about the scheduling. So when do the lessons meet? How do they get scheduled and how that works?
Yeah, good question. When we see you in person, whether you're in camp or the first day of orchestra or Dr. Debley sees you, if you're going to take lessons or required to take lessons, we'll give you the personnel list of all our faculty and how to get in touch with them. And to put it simply your instructor may contact you before that happens, because we've given the roster of students who are going to be studying a certain instrument to that teacher by the time school rolls around. They may be in touch with you by email before we give you their contact information. So the first thing that we're going to ask you to do, and the teacher asks you to do, is just block out your schedule to see when you are available, when you have a time where you can schedule either a half hour or an hour between classes. And I guess you're going to have to kind of coordinate that with what day your particular applied teacher comes to campus, because they're all part-time instructors who come in, with the exception of Dr. Frazee, who's there all every day. And then you may hear from your instructor, I'm there on Thursdays and Fridays, and they'll ask you for your schedule on that day, and they'll schedule you and they'll get back to you. It's a pretty smooth system that we've developed over the years, and most of the instructors are really good about getting back to you. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Another question that I'm going to hand off to you. Someone asked about Bandcamp and that being the same time as other events are going on, and even like the tryouts for athletics. And so they wanted to know how that was going to work out.
Since Bandcamp is only basically 24 to 36 hours, we're going to ask that you contact Ms. Anderson or myself. We can get in touch with your coach and see what we can work out. Okay.
Yeah, and as related to that, someone asked about the date of Fall Welcome Weekend. So Bandcamp starts on Wednesday, August 19th, and Fall Welcome Weekend starts on the 20th, so the next day, because I believe that's when the rest of the new students move in. So Bandcamp has already been going on for a day before the rest of your peers will be moving in. So typically we tell students to try to come to as many band things as possible, and then there are some other things that you might be able you might need to go to instead of band camp. And if that's the case, you just let us know and we'll work that out for you. By the way, the rain's coming down pretty hard by me and my lights were flickering. So hopefully if I go away, Dr. M or Dr. Dudley are going to be the host for a little bit. So hopefully we'll be okay. I think those are all of the questions that I've already received. Oh, band camp. Again, band camp is Wednesday, August 19th to Friday, August 21st. And we will be sending out an email at the end of this month with some more information about band camp. And if you're not living on campus, you can still absolutely participate in band camp. You just wouldn't need to move into the dorms during that time. Other questions that any of you have before we conclude part 1 here? Hopefully I didn't miss any. I'm just taking a look one more time. If you still have questions or questions that you wanted to ask just us on your own, please feel free to email us at any time throughout the summer and into the fall, and we will definitely get back to you. Oh, sorry, a couple more questions. Required clothing or concert attire. Dr. Dudley, could you talk? I know that our concert schedule is a little up in the air right now, but could you address that for the choirs?
Sure. It depends on which choir you're in. Chapel choir does white top, dark bottom of some kind. For men, usually a white button-down shirt. Generally, the men wear ties and black slacks. Women, a white top, something that at least covers your shoulders, and a dark slacks or dark skirt. Civic chorale wears pretty much the same thing. The difference being that the women wear a colored scarf around their neck. Professor Blado, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I got that right.
That is correct.
Okay. And then both SELA and Common Core members, the women have a specific black dress that they buy. The good news is that is the exact same black dress that if you're a member of the Alleluia Ringers, it's the same dress. And if you're in SELA this year and in Common Core the next year, it's the same dress. So you're not having to change clothes during concerts and you're only buying the one thing. Gentlemen in Common Core wear tuxedos that they purchase on their own. As long as it is black and it's a tuxedo, tiny bits of individuality are usually tolerated. So, but I think I covered that.
Good. Dr. M, would you like to talk about the bands and orchestra?
For the concert bands, well, for pep band, you will be clearly, Mrs. A is going to issue you a T-shirt, and you have the opportunity to buy a band jacket, which they're really, really, really nice. You'll like them. All the ensemble, all the bands can buy a nice windbreaker jacket. And then for the concert bands, for our photo days and for our concerts, men would buy a tuxedo, and it's usually a good deal. You can get it wherever you like if you have a supplier back home. And for women, since we're sitting, we have you provide your own black outfit. Slacks are fine, hard-soled shoes, dresses are fine, knee length on the dresses and skirts, but any combination of black that you feel comfortable in. And we'll show examples when we get at the appropriate time. Okay?
Thank you. Professor Blado, did you have anything to add? I was scanning through the comments, and so I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to address your ensembles.
Yes, very briefly. All the ringers, the women, as Dr. Dudley said, wear the same dress as the choirs, the SELA and Common Core. The gentlemen in all the ringers will have a long sleeve white shirt and black pants, but the tie and or vest and other outfits will be, the rest of that will be provided at no cost. And for chapel ringers, the women are asked to wear a black outfit, and the guys wear a long sleeve white shirt and black pants. And again, the tie that we wear is provided at no cost to you. So that's how we do things in Bells.
Thank you. A couple other questions about concert attire. Someone asked if they have the opportunity to participate in SELA, can the dresses be rented? Dr. Debley.
Unfortunately, no, we don't rent any dresses. We do, however, often there are some students who have graduated who have offered to try to sell a used dress at a reduced price as opposed to buying a dress new. With COVID-19, however, I haven't quite made up my mind if that's going to end up being an option. The good news is that all these used dresses, they have been cleaned, and so it should be fine. The problem is just the trying on of the dresses. But if nothing else, certainly with COVID-19, renting dresses is probably out of the question. But if the cost of the dress is a problem, please feel free to talk to me. We can definitely work something out where, maybe you just pay in installments or something to that effect.
Great. And we are kind of running short on time here. And so we're going to answer one final question, and then I'm going to save the chat at the end of the meeting. And if we didn't get to your question, I will absolutely personally send you an email to answer that. So for about chapel choir, when they sing in chapel on Fridays, is there something specific that students have to wear for that?
Clothes. Usually chapel services on campus are pretty informal. Most of the people who attend, it's come as you are. And so I tell members of chapel choir, it's the same thing. It's come as you are. And sometimes fairly literally, because there are members of chapel choir who have just come from class and then they come and sing for chapel. The only thing that I ask is that you be mindful that you're in God's house. So that means don't wear your skimpiest outfit. Make sure all your body parts are covered. Men to remove their hats, things along those lines. But there's no specific uniform requirement when we sing for chapel services.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so we are going to transition to the next part of our meeting. And so I want to take a minute and just remind you that of the online resources as well as our email addresses. So please feel free to contact us. I want to thank you all for your time. Like Dr. M mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we were so looking forward to these meetings because we really missed seeing many of you this summer on campus. And so this is really exciting for us to see all of you potential musicians that are going to be making music with us. So please let us know how we can help moving forward into the fall. Send us an email if you just want to say hi. We probably would appreciate that too. So we're going to go ahead and again end part one. And so if you are not a music major or minor, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to you at this time. Thank you so much again for coming. All right. Hello, everyone that's still here. Let's move this right along because again, we're short on time here. We want to make sure that we answer all of your questions as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Professor Little, who is going to talk a little bit about music theory for all of the incoming music majors and minors.
Thanks, Johanna. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all. It's nice to put some faces to names that I've already seen on my class lists. So this is wonderful. Let's just talk a little bit about theory. There's going to be 4 semesters of theory for all of the music majors and 3 semesters of theory for the music minors. Basically, We spend those 4 semesters covering everything from music fundamentals through diatonic harmony, chromatic harmony, which is my favorite semester, and all the way up through 20th and 21st century techniques. So we try to get everything in. A typical week in music theory involves 4 days of class, and we will spend 3 days doing lecture or analyzing, part writing, composition, those types of things. And then 1 day is oral training. And we will do sight singing and keyboard training and also some critical listening, developing those skills. If you are planning to be a music major or minor, we suggest that you get your theory in from the very beginning. Make sure that you get signed up for theory class. It's very important. It builds the foundation for many of our other classes in the music curriculum. So make sure you get started with that right away. And I know that there have been some questions about testing out of Music Theory 1. We realize that some of you have experience maybe through AP Theory class, or maybe you've had a really good private instructor or an ensemble teacher who's taught you a lot about theory. If you are interested, there is a test that I administer in August around the time that classes start. And if you're interested in trying to take that test, please email me so that I know you're interested, lynn.little@cuw.edu. And so I can put you on the list and keep you updated about when and where that will be and all the particulars. All right. And then I also want to talk just a little bit about beginning piano in case any of you need the beginning piano class. This is piano class for folks who have maybe no piano experience or very little piano experience. It's very important as a musician to be able to be fluent at the keyboard. It's a great tool for all of you. And this would be Music 100. There's a special music major class at 8:30 in the mornings, wonderful time, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And a lot of what we do in there will also supplement what you're doing in music theory during the oral training part. So it's really very helpful to all of you. And something to keep in mind is that the music education people and the music therapists will also have a piano proficiency as one of their graduation requirements. So this is a great way to start off and get yourself on the right path for learning all of that stuff for when you're looking ahead to that test. And again, if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. I'll be happy to answer them. Mrs. Anderson, can you think of anything I've left out?
I think that's wonderful for now. We'll see if any questions come through in a little bit. We might circle back to some things. Thank you, Professor Little.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Dudley, if you could continue the discussion about the music major curriculum.
Sure. Professor Little kind of alluded to this a little bit. Regardless of the type of music major you are, because we have music education, both instrumental and choral emphasis, we have liberal arts music majors, we have parish music majors, we have music therapy majors. When you're a freshman, the music part of what you take is pretty much identical, regardless of the type of music major that you are. So everybody takes Music Theory 1, as Professor Little mentioned. It is pretty much the foundation of all the things, so it's really important to get that in right away. Everybody will be in at least one music ensemble, depending on what your type of music is. Everybody will be taking private lessons on whatever your primary instrument is. In some cases, like for example, we have some students who might be in both band and choir, so they're taking instrumental lessons and vocal lessons. There are some cases where that's the case, but everybody is taking at least lessons on one instrument. And then everyone also will be registered for Music 080, which is for 0 academic credit, but you do have to pass at least 7 semesters of 080. And what this is for attending concerts and convocations on campus. We have a requirement usually that you attend a minimum of 4 on-campus concerts every semester, And these have to be concerts that you are not performing in. Know, however, that that number can change, like maybe there aren't 4 concerts in a semester. In that case, we would make an adjustment. And then also every month we have a department convocation where the music majors perform for each other. It's kind of a low stress way, perform for a friendly crowd and get a little practice, because come senior year, you'll be performing a recital. And so this will help you to get ready for that. So that 080 means that you've attended your minimum number of concerts for the semester and you've been attending those convocations. If you are a music ed major, the one difference as a freshman is that you'll also be taking an instrument techniques class, which this fall is string techniques. If as both a band director and an orchestra director, you have to know how to play all of the instruments, at least to some basic level, and have an idea of how to teach them. So that's what these techniques classes are all about, just to kind of give you the basics of how to play. So in your string techniques class, you'll be learning how to play violin, viola, cello, and bass, and also how to teach those. So that's a class that, again, just the music ed majors you'll see on your schedule. In terms of what you do down the line, it kind of depends on the type of music major that you are. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but as Professor Little mentioned, all majors take 4 semesters of music theory. If you're a minor, you take 3 semesters. You would have to be in an ensemble every semester. You'd have to be taking private lessons every semester. You register for that Music 080 that I mentioned every semester. And down the line, you'll be taking music history. If you are a major, you take 3 semesters of music history, or most of the music majors anyway. And the minors take 2 semesters of music history. Everyone also takes conducting at some point. Depending on the type of music major, you might have to take 2 semesters of conducting, or you might take composing and arranging. And then, as I mentioned, your senior year, you would perform a recital for all of your adoring fans as sort of the capstone project for your major. If you're a music education major, I think it is pretty obvious, but there would be a teaching component also at the end. You do a semester of student teaching. And if you're in the parish music program, you also do a semester-long practicum where you're assigned to a church and have some practice being a church musician and what that's like. One last little thing that I want to mention is the music major audition. We do things a little bit differently compared to a lot of universities. A lot of universities require that you audition to be admitted into the program before you start college. And for us, we officially admit you to the music program at the end of your first year. So if you are, well, this gives you time to work on your music theory skills, gives you time to work on your instrument abilities. We also look at your ensemble participation. We get a chance to get to know you a little bit instead of just having to go off of just what we hear at the moment and how you look on paper, basically. So we have a really good idea of what your abilities and your interests are at the end of that year. So in May is when we would be scheduling those music major auditions. You also would put together a portfolio of your musical activities, mostly focused on what you do during college, but you can also include some of the things you did in high school, if you've done some things at your church or things in the community. We want to get a picture of who you are as a musician. You would write a statement saying, this is why I want to be a music major. These are the things I plan to do with myself. This is what music means to me. Those kinds of things. And, again, at least some of us would know you pretty well, but maybe not all of the faculty would know you. So that's just to help us to get a bigger picture of who you are as a musician. If this is a lot to kind of take in all at once, don't fret. We have this all laid out. When you start in the fall, we have a music major handbook. You'll meet with Mrs. Anderson. She'll walk you through the whole thing, and you get to keep that handbook, and you can refer back to it. And as music major auditions come up, we will definitely be giving you some reminders to help you craft your cover letter, remind you of the things you need to include in your portfolio, what the procedures will be, etc. Mrs. Anderson, did I forget anything?
No, that was wonderful, Dr. Dudley. Thanks so much for all of that. While I have you here, I have a question. Do music minors participate in convocation along with the majors?
Oh, that's a good question. Music minors are not required to participate in convocation, but they're certainly welcome to. Really, the music majors are required to attend, but anybody on campus who wants to can attend. It's open to anybody. And we do sometimes have music minors who perform, but the music majors are required to perform typically once a semester, although for you freshmen, your first semester, you are off the hook for performing. You don't have to. But that way you'll get a chance to kind of get a sense of what the groove is like, how it goes. But music minors are certainly welcome to perform on convocations if there's room on a given date.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any other questions that you guys have at this time? And again, if you asked a question earlier on that we didn't get to related to the ensembles, I'll go ahead and make sure that I email you to answer that. Well, we are so excited to have all of you in our department. Obviously, we love all of our students, but we especially love our music majors and minors, and that's really exciting to see all of you. I know a lot of you, but those that I don't know, we're really looking forward to getting to know you. Please keep in contact with us this summer. If you have specific questions about your fall schedule, I know that Dr. Dudley and I submitted a lot of the private lesson registrations, and your academic advisors, I connected with them about which music courses should be on your schedule. But if you have any questions about that, or you think you might be missing something, please feel free to check in with us. I think that we're going to go ahead and wrap it up unless there are other questions that come through. Again, thank you so much for your time, and please reach out to us this summer, and we're really looking forward to seeing you in the fall.